Hey, it's Mrs. Reichelt, and this next video we're going to talk about part of the endocrine system. So before we get started, I do want you to be aware that I do have a sort of a worksheet that you can take your notes on. Basically, it's a table that helps you graphically organize all of the different organs and glands and hormones of the immune system. I think it's easier to organize them, I guess, in a table format. So make sure you print that out, and if not, you're welcome just to write these down as well. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this endocrine system is the second messenger system of the body. So the first messenger system, so the first is the nervous system, but this is the second one, probably second most important messenger system. This uses a chemical messengers, which are known as hormones, that are released into the blood system. So if they're released into the blood system, but they are hormones, we're going to call them endocrine. Remember, hopefully, maybe you've gone through the integumentary system and we talked about the difference between endo and exocrine glands. So exocrine glands are going to be ones that the contents are going to be excreted through your body surface, maybe in the form of your pores or things like that. Those are exocrine. So endocrine means that we're now putting these hormones into the bloodstream or into the blood. Okay, so the hormones are going to cover several major processes. They're controlling reproduction, growth and development, mobilization of body defense, maintenance of a lot of homeostasis, as well as regulating the metabolism. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So our major hormone review is that hormones are produced by specialized cells. Okay, there's cells that are going to secrete hormones into the extracellular fluid. Blood will transfer your hormones into the target site. Then the use of hormones will help to regulate the activity of other cells. So that's kind of in general the purpose and the use for hormones. So our first hormone that we're going to talk about is the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is about the size of a pea. It's very small, and it's right near the hypothalamus in the brain. So it hangs from a stalk. This part is the stalk right here. Okay, that's the stalk, and then you have two lobes. You have a posterior lobe and an anterior lobe. Okay, so the anterior means front, so the anterior lobe is going to be on this side, whereas the posterior lobe is going to be towards the back. And the pituitary gland actually has several hormones associated with it. So here is what I'm talking about, where you might want to put these in a table or print out that the handout that I have that goes with this. So the major hormones of the pituitary gland, remember this is the anterior pituitary. The posterior pituitary has their own hormones. So this is the anterior. Okay, we have growth hormone, or GH. Growth hormone, I think, is pretty easy to remember because it's just the growth of your bones, muscles, and metabolism, and it's regulated by the hypothalamus. Prolactin, lactate means, milk and milk production. So prolactin is for milk production. Males do produce prolactin, but the function of that is unknown, and it's regulated by the hypothalamus. The next one is the follicle stimulating hormone. We sometimes call this FSH. FSH is for the production of ova and sperm, and it's regulated by the hypothalamus again. The next one is luteinizing hormone, or LH. Luteinizing hormone is similar to the follicle stimulating hormone. It's going to stimulate ovaries as well as testes. I always think that on a test, students get 3 and 4 confused because their definitions sound very similar. Just be aware that they're different. The next one is the thyroid stimulating hormone. Hopefully you remember this one because it just stimulates the thyroid gland, and it's regulated by the hypothalamic hormones as well. The next one is the adrenocorticotropic hormones. So the adrenocorticotropic hormone, this stimulates the adrenal cortex to secrete glucocorticoids. It's regulated by glucocorticoids as well as the hypothalamus. So gluco means sugar, so you know that this one has to do with sugar, and we'll go through a little bit more in depth with that one later. All right, so that brings us to the posterior pituitary. So we're still in the pituitary gland, but now we're going over the posterior pituitary. So there's two hormones in the posterior pituitary. Your first one is oxytocin. This stimulates the contraction of the uterus and also the milk letdown reflex. So basically, as a female is giving birth to a baby, the amount of oxytocin will increase. That increase in amount of oxytocin will stimulate a contraction of the uterus, which basically will push the baby further towards the vaginal walls into the cervix, and then from there, the stimuli will increase based on the oxytocin. After the baby is born, oxytocin will be used for the milk letdown reflex. So it's regulated by a lot of different things. The hypothalamus, it also responds to the uterine stretching as well as suckling of a baby. The second hormone here of the posterior pituitary is the antidiuretic hormone. Sometimes we call this ADH. A diuretic is something that helps to hold in water. So it's going to, a diuretic is something that helps you get rid of water. So things that you drink that are diuretics are going to be things like soda or tea or anything that can dehydrate you, basically. So a diuretic helps you go pee, basically. It helps you urinate. Okay, so an antidiuretic is going to do the opposite of that. So it promotes water retention by the kidneys, and it's regulated by the hypothalamus, as well as water and salt imbalances. So we're going to go ahead and stop there for the first video. The next video will cover all the rest of them. So I hope you found that helpful.